Hello, you're watching Thursday edition of News Mongolia. Today is March 24th. For our top stories, agricultural startup companies do not have access to soft loans in Dornogovi province. The government will support the livestock sector. Parliament to discuss development plan of Mongolia for 2023. For other news, stay tuned. There are many startups working in the agricultural sector in Dornogovi province, but they do not have access to soft loans. Several new projects have been initiated in that province. We are reporting from Dornogovi province.
You can see a chicken farm in Dornogovi, which alone accounts for 60% of the egg demand. The company has provided 5 permanent jobs since 2017. They started with raising 1,000 chickens and now they have 8,000 chickens. But the only problems they have are bank interest rates and a lack of working capital.
The most pressing issue for businesses is to have low-interest long-term loans. We've only recently started our first 5 years in business. It's very difficult for people to pay from their income the interest of commercial banks.
Just right now, the policy of supporting wealth creators is reflected in the rehabilitation policy. The government will support the sustainable growth of agricultural production. In Dornogovi, the Amek government said it would work with businesses to save jobs.
We will attract investment in the first 10 years of the revival policy without creating any barriers for any project or program. It is expected that such development will remove the barriers to development. This should be followed by job creation. Most importantly, we need to increase our workforce.
It is also necessary to improve the local living environment. In this context, a housing program for 150,000 households has been launched in Dornogovi. As the number of buildings increases, so will the need for energy and heat. Therefore, a 12-megawatt power plant is expected to be commissioned in Dornogovi this year.
Our Amek has a total of 14 sums. Out of those, a central heating network was established in 12 sums. Now there are just 2 sums left. Those 2 sums have been planned and budgeted for in 2022, and from 2023 they will start receiving a central heating supply from the local budget. The most important thing is your habitat. If you have a job and a place to live, everything else will be fine.
Construction of a treatment plant worth 7 billion Mongolian tugurs has started in Dornogovi with funding from the Asian Development Bank. It is planned to be commissioned later this year. It has a treatment capacity of 3,000 cubic meters of water per day. Expanding such industries and upgrading infrastructure in rural areas will limit the flow of people from rural areas.
The government has proposed to ask for a loan from the Asian Development Bank to support the livestock sector. The draft loan agreement was discussed at a meeting of Parliament's Standing Committee on the Budget. The government has requested a total of 30 million from the Asian Development Bank. The loan will be used for the livestock sector. The project will be implemented in 20 sums of Bayonghongor, Arhanga, Urhanga, and Bolgon provinces.
There are plans to create 14,000 hayfields for 466 groups of herders, improve animal nutrition, and reduce risk. There's also a project concept that will focus more on improving cashmere marketing and sales through the construction of cashmere sorting facilities in Soms.
The Ministry of Agriculture explains that the selection of provinces to implement the payment took into account the amount of livestock, overgrazing, and soil degradation. Some members of Parliament's Standing Committee on the Budget are of the opinion that it is necessary to pay attention to the results of optimizing the use of the loan funds.
Our 14,000 herders shelter in need of $34.5 million. Is there a need for international funding for herders to meet their own needs in the context of their responsibilities? Law stipulates that provinces and local governments must take regulatory measures and provide a certain amount of financial support for the construction of fences and cooperatives.
The majority of members of Parliament's Standing Committee on the Budget believe that the government should negotiate a loan agreement with the Asian Development Bank. The ministry explained that the outer AMEX could be included in the future if the loan agreement is implemented successfully. According to the Ministry of Health, on Thursday, 55 new COVID-19 cases were detected nationwide and no additional deaths were reported. Now let's take a look at other Mongolian current affairs news.
The Minister of Construction and Urban Development, Mukbatar, was tasked with approving the composition of the Mongolian delegation to participate in the second meeting of the Mongolia-Poland Intergovernmental Commission on Economic Cooperation, which will be held virtually on March 31st. The guidelines for the Mongolian delegation to participate in the fourth meeting of the Mongolian-Kyrgyz Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific, Technical and Cultural Cooperation to be held in Ulaanbaatar on March 28 to 29, 2022 were approved. The Minister of Finance and Acting Minister of the Economy and Development, Jakhlang, presented the draft development plan of Mongolia for 2023. The draft plan, which reflects the proposals of the cabinet members and the draft resolution of the State Great Hall on approval of the development plan of Mongolia for 2023, will be discussed at the cabinet meeting. The Deputy Minister of Health, Batduvshing, and the Director of the Culture and Arts Department, Natsag Dolgor, were relieved of their posts due to irresponsible conduct.
Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Here comes the weather forecast for the world's major cities. This was Thursday edition of News Mongolia. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again with more news updates. Stay tuned.